Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of CaOverwatch. We just finished our one of the final weeks of Overwatch, and now we're heading to our final week of regular season play. This is going to be the culmination of Toronto Defiant season.
Yeah, we have one game left. So for those of you who don't know, this was our second last game of the season before playoffs. We then play the Dallas Fuel next week on Saturday, I believe, for our final game of the season, which actually has a decent amount of playoff implications. I believe that we are currently tied in terms of wins, and they're actually one. They have a better map differential than us. So a victory over the Dallas Fuel would actually be huge. So a pretty important match coming up this week. So I think the plan for this episode is we're going to break down the performance versus the shock. We're going to answer our question of the day, which is going to be, will Surefour return? We'll put all that in the timestamps below, don't worry. And then our final thing is going to be preview the matchup versus the Dallas Fuel. So with that out of the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you guys for watching. I'm Spencer, one of the hosts, as always. And with me is Chris.
Is that who you are?
Chris, how's it going?
Pretty good. Dude, it's also pretty sick that people or Toronto Defiant's doing the big kind of like week where they do a whole bunch of viewer stuff and fan things.
Yeah.
They're doing Hero Gauntlet. They're doing like a virtual meet and greet. Was this supposed to be the weekend where we had our second homestand?
That's actually a good question. I actually don't know the answer to that. I don't think so. I don't think we capped the year. No, because the year was supposed to be like done by August, right?
August, I thought.
Or it'd be in playoffs. I thought it was earlier.
I don't know.
It doesn't matter. We can double check that. I don't know if it is or not, but either way, it's something similar that they did for the Toronto Ultra when it was their homestand, where they had like a week of events for the community. So you're right. There's a free-for-all gauntlet tournament. There's a virtual meet and greet, a watch party hosted by CarQ. So if you're a Toronto Ultra fan, or oh my God, sorry, the shirt's throwing me off. I know that's the issue, right? Our next episode is going to be Ultra that we're recording after this. If you're a Toronto Defiant fan, or a Toronto esports fan in general, this is going to be a week for you guys. It's all community driven. I believe anybody can sign up. It's like solo entries are available, so you don't need a whole team to sign up. If you just want to go in there and have some fun and meet some new people who share similar interests to yourself, now's the time to do it. So make sure you follow them on Twitter and sign up.
And it's all sponsored by Skip the Dishes.
Yes, and I believe TD. I believe they just announced that TD is also presenting the Hero Gauntlet.
TD too.
Yeah, TD Bank. They're new sponsors, which is really cool. That sort of the big banks are getting. I don't.
I use Skip the Dishes all the time.
I do.
To get stuff like chicken parm, pizza.
Dude, I used it the other day at a Firehouse Sub. It was fantastic. Anyways, I don't know if people want to hear our favorite Skip the Dishes foods. Although I will say that Agility was on. He said pie. That's right up there for me as well. But with that out of the way, how about we just jump into this one? How about we just break down the
SF Shock,
the San Francisco Shock versus the Toronto Defiant, and what I was hoping would be a somewhat close game. I think it comes to the surprise of absolutely nobody that this was a 3-0 for the Shock. I think I might have gotten a little bit of hope after watching the performance versus Philadelphia, where they actually did get 3-0'd, and I was like, you know what? Maybe the stars are aligning for the Toronto Defiant to actually show up big in this match. And then I remember that Genji was nerfed and Agilities couldn't play Genji. And I was like, maybe not. So Shock came out with Sorry, what?
Genji was, he wasn't allowed to play. He wasn't nerfed. He was just...
okay, good point. He was nerfed, though. That patch did go through. So even if he was available, it still would have been on the nerfs. But you are correct. He was part of the hero bans. So even if he wasn't. But I don't think he's viable regardless. Yeah. I think that the general consensus in the community is that he's no longer a thing. But
weird. I don't have a bunch of negative things to say about. Like I have some negative stuff to say about the SF Shock game, but I also have a couple positive things.
Yeah, I guess I was hoping to be a little bit closer, and I thought that we had some hope given the Philly game, but they came back with a vengeance and kind of smoked us. So I don't know if I want to be like too negative, because obviously the Shock, they're an incredible team, and we tweeted this out after the game, like. They were an incredible team, and, it is what it is. But at the same time, I was expecting more of a fight than I think that we put up.
Yeah. It looks like there's signs of life on Lijiang Tower. Like, we cap first point, I believe, in the actual tower, Lijiang Tower. And it looks like we had some good chances of winning team fights. And we won a decent amount of team fights, but they just were a little bit more consistent with us. They were against us. They were a little bit more consistent with capitalizing on first picks. Which is, once again, we said this in past episodes. It's something that Toronto needs to improve on is, getting a first pick and winning the team fight after that. I think they're I'm sure we could look it up in Stats Lab, but I think Toronto's team fight conversion rate after getting a first pick isn't as high as probably other teams.
Yeah.
So I think that was, for me, that was the difference between Lijiang and in Lijiang and KOF, because I'd say that I don't think we did as badly in Lijiang as we did in like Kings Row or maybe in Hannamura.
Definitely not as bad as we did in Kings Row. I'd agree. Kings Row, we got smoked. From my perspective, again, like, I mean, that was actually, I did the 3 keys to successes for the Toronto Defiant, and number, one of the big ones, number 2, I believe, or number 1 was actually like improve our team fight conversion rate, because I was like, if we have any chance of beating the San Francisco Shock, it's going to come off of like getting that first pick and being able to convert that first pick into a team fight win. And we were able to do it obviously sometimes, but not as consistent as we needed to in order to get the victory. So while Lijiang, I agree. I actually thought that, Zik comes in there and plays the Junkrat, I think, better than Agilities did. I think you especially noticed this in his tire usage, whereas Agilities sort of just threw the tire in there and hoped that it get picks. I think Zik set it up better in terms of being able to try to surprise the enemy. He actually had some pretty good moments with that. At the end of the day, you're right. Their coordination was better. Some immortality usage, I think, was flubbed here and there a little bit. But the big thing, and they ran fair on second point. I don't think we countered that, nearly well enough. And then they just sort of, full held us 100% to 0. So,
yeah, that's unfortunate. Now moving on to Kings Row. Once again, this was our worst map, and there are a lot of poor things to say about that. But I actually do have a couple of things that I think were bright spots within the Kings Row map.
Okay,
for me.
I was gonna say, you talk about the positive second, because I got some negatives, and I just want to end this on a high note. So think about what you're gonna say, because I actually thought Kings Row
negatives too.
Yeah, well, we can do the negatives first and then move into the positives, because I think usually when people say good news or bad news, you hear their bad news first, right? Because you want to leave that conversation on the happy end. At least that's what I do.
Recency bias, right?
Recency bias, exactly. So for me, it was sort of, I think this was another issue where the team just didn't know how to adapt. I don't know if they weren't expecting the Junkrat. Like, I don't know what the case was, but we came out there with the attack mid, which I think can work. Obviously, I think the win condition with that composition is you sort of want to like isolate somebody and then like go in and get that pick, because you're running the Reinhardt and whatnot on an attack going up against the Orisa Sigma Junkrat defense. It seemed like we were too focused on like taking that high ground, and when you take that high ground, you actually run into the choke, where the Junkrat is extremely effective. So there was a couple times where like Zik would try to get that pick with his wall, like the isolation, and it didn't work. And like, if you don't get the isolation, I think you need to get out of that choke immediately. And instead, they just like pushed into it even harder. Numlock just like hit W and tried to move in, and they just got like completely obliterated, which I didn't like to see. I also think even the idea of getting the wall isolation pick is a lot more difficult with the main nerfs, because they just break through the wall so quickly. Like, if Junkrat's on the other side, he just shoots that thing and they immediately have, the tanks have protection.
Well, that's what happens. They got a couple isolations, like they isolate 1 or 2 players, and then Junk just broke it right immediately.
Like immediately, and obviously the tires and stuff like that are just so powerful. So I also didn't love the strategy, although I do think it could have worked. But I think you need to sort of pressure them off high ground, and I would have liked to have seen Defiant put more pressure on point. I think they kind of just ran the same thing over and over and over again, and it didn't work. I know at one point they did put point pressure first, and I was like, okay, let's see how this works. And the issue was when they tried it, they were down in the alt economy, so they go point first. San Fran gives them a second. They set up a tire. They get a few picks with the tire, and they just win the team fight. And I don't know if Toronto took that as like, oh, point pressure isn't going to work, as opposed to like, we were down in ultimate economy. That sort of thing happens. So I'd like to see them maybe try some new things here and there. I thought Logic's, had some good moments, though. I will say that I'm moving into positives now, so I'll sort of stop talking in a minute. He had decent moments on Widow, but overall, I would have liked to have seen some better adaptation from Toronto and maybe mixing up the strategy a little bit more, especially on attack.
Yeah, I totally agree. Those are things I noticed too. I also noticed that just to dwindle a little bit more on the bad stuff, Cruz had, I thought his pathing was a little poor. It was very, very clear that he was getting picked off a lot by the Widowmaker, and he would get picked off while our team was still kind of like hanging around in the right side or like in the back part of the map when they're trying to do their pathing to get high ground, and then you would come back to rejoin them and you just get picked again.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you saw that, because there's still some open space that Lucy has to go through, but it was a little bit unfortunate in that
and obviously
sense.
Ons is like an incredible Widowmaker, right? Yeah. So it's like part of it's going to be on Cruz for path, and the other part is like, man, if there's one Widow that you don't want to try to path against, it's Ons.
Yeah, exactly. Here's the one thing I did like from that map. I actually saw one thing I've been harping on for the past couple episodes is Toronto's like passiveness, and they're just kind of waiting for them to be waiting for people to come to them make mistakes, which isn't really beneficial against higher grade teams like Shock because they don't really make mistakes. But and I'm not saying that they were not passive throughout the series. I thought there was a lot of points where they were passive, but on Kings Row, especially in defense, I saw them make a lot of proactive plays that, for me, really signaled not necessarily a shift, but signaled a slight change in mindset, which looked promising to me. One of the specific plays I was thinking of is once again on our defense. One of them got a pick on us. Like I think one of us went down. Let me see if I wrote it down properly. No, I didn't write down who got picked.
Yeah.
But one of the members on Toronto Defiant did get picked off. And what Numlock did is he actually, with team coordination, went aggressively and shut down a potential push by Shock after they got the pick, and really like took the initiative out of the Shock's hands, brought into the Toronto Defiant's hands, and eventually won the team fight. So that was something that I just noticed that, I've been hard on this for the past couple of weeks, and they made a change during that moment in time, which was good. So I think I was happy with their defense. It was the attack that lost them.
I totally agree. I think their defense wasn't terrible. Again, though, there was one moment where they pushed really aggressively and sort of shut it down. But I remember them over-investing ultimates and then only getting 1 or 2 picks, and then they just responded. And if you over-invest ultimates and you don't get the team wipe, it's pretty bad because you use an ultimate and your team isn't able to charge their ultimates off of the team fight win. So they just sort of kited it and then regained spawn, and they had coalescence to reattack. So I do agree. I like the idea and the timing for it. I think the execution was just a little poor where they just kited, and then we could have even kept going, but then we didn't. We overextended. They were maybe not. And then when we backed up, they just came in right after us with coalescence, and then I think I actually forget if we lose that in the next team fight, but either way, it was a scrappy one. It was a close one. But I do agree that the defense was actually pretty decent. We do get, obviously they first cap, but you kind of expect that, especially with the Shock. Nobody thought there was a chance in hell that Defiant were going to full hold the Shock on first point. I think they actually set them up to an okay position to maybe actually full hold on third. But, we'll never know because you're right. The attack was so poor that we never really got that opportunity to see.
Exactly. So moving on to the last map, Hannamura. What are some of your thoughts on that, Spencer?
Man, I feel like Hannamura was a bit of a blur. It was interesting to see Roki and Kareev in there. I actually kind of like that duo, although I don't know how it affects losing Cruz's sort of shot calling in that. But I thought that was the biggest takeaway. I was like, oh, Roki and Kareev are playing together, because we talked about hey, I want to see Kareev in the lineup, and we kind of got the best of both worlds with Roki and Kareev. So that was interesting. I think again, Logic's got hit a bit there with on the early pickoff on our defense and just not being able to, once again, capitalize on opportunities. We get 2 picks, I think, and they're able to trickle out and snowball and stop us from full capping. There's a couple moments where it looked okay for us, and then we just couldn't capitalize because I think the Shock's just a really good team, and we can get into it a little bit later, but obviously it seemed like the team took this game a little bit less seriously in relation to obviously the playoffs that are coming up, and I think that was pretty relevant. When I read that tweet by Barroi, I was like, oh, that makes sense. Why this team seemed to struggle a little bit in this current patch and on this current meta, because I don't think they're scrimming too much on it. That's how I interpreted it. But
the one thing is that it seemed like Toronto weren't necessarily doing some of the basic stuff that are irrelevant of meta, right? I remember one part specifically on Hannamura Roki, sound barrier or whoever was on Lucio during that time.
I think it was Roki. It wouldn't be Kareev. Kareev wouldn't be
Roki. Roki's on was sound barrier on second point Hannamura, clearly after Numlock died.
Yeah.
And, when you're early in a fight and you already have one pick off, that it's really, really hard to cap a 2 CP point like that.
Yeah.
So I totally agree. Kind of a little bit mismanaged of alts, but which is kind of something that's just more fundamental, not meta based. But enough of that. That out of the way, let's answer our daily question or weekly question.
Well, before we go move, I do want to talk about, just because we should probably bring it up. I mentioned it, alluded to it, the tweet that Barroi puts out there, because it does bring some context into this game, and then we'll get to our question of the day. You guys gotta wait a little bit longer. So for those of you who don't know, Barroi tweeted out after the game, essentially saying that I know it's going to be tough for the fans watching this game and the next. But the truth is, us of a team have decided to focus on the playoffs. The patch that the playoffs are being played on isn't the one that this week and next week's games are being played on. That they're quite different actually. Like the pre-playoff match is a lot of significant changes. So I think Toronto made it very clear that like they are not putting their eggs in this basket in this patch. That a lot of their focus, if not all of their focus, is going towards preparing for playoffs. So I think that makes a little bit of sense when you see the teams like on coordination. And I was really expecting to see Surefour on the Sombra transition. But we didn't. And I wonder if that was because even though they knew Sombra was probably meta for this game and the next game, it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be meta for the playoffs themselves. And I don't know if they wanted to break up potentially any synergy between the DPS and although we saw Ziggins, so I don't know if that's a good take by me. But it did seem like maybe they were just like, hey, this isn't what we're practicing in scrims, so like why would we run it currently?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why Surefour hasn't been playing, especially when they're throwing Sombra on there. It's like people here's the theories. It's like it's either like for some clearly legitimate reason, like
okay, well, are we answering the question of the day? Are we just blowing past the tweet and asking what we see Surefour again?
Sorry. Yeah, I don't have anything to add about the tweet. I don't have anything to add. You kind of covered there. So question of the day.
Got it.
Question of the day.
I don't want to cut you off. I just want to set it up a little bit.
Yeah, sorry. Question of the day, where is Surefour? Surefour hasn't been playing for the past, I think, like 3 weeks. He's been playing for a while.
Yeah.
I didn't play in the Countdown Cup.
Well, no, yeah, because it's interesting. People were like, man, I haven't seen Surefour in so long. When was the last time we saw Surefour play? He's checked out. He's going to retire, this and that. I was like, dude, we saw him play versus Paris like 2 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, right? He didn't play the Countdown Cup, but our first game after the Countdown Cup was we played the Paris Eternal, and it was Washington and Paris, and he played both games.
So he played like a couple weeks ago, but he hasn't been playing like a lot.
No. I'm just saying we did see him play. I forget if he played versus Washington. I think he actually did. For sure saw him play against Paris. I think he played against both as Ash and a little bit of Sombra.
Yeah, you know what? I guess maybe he did, but I don't know. It's still indicative. For me, it's still indicative of something bigger.
It was pre-Countdown Cup. I'm wrong. It was before the Countdown Cup.
Okay, so.
But I'm just setting it up. Like he played a few weeks ago. People are thinking he hasn't played in like 3 months, but he did play a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, he hasn't been playing a lot, and there's 3 reasons. Like there's 3 theories I think that are flowing out there. First off is that maybe he's just been off his game. Maybe the meta hasn't been catering to him, and he therefore hasn't been playing. But then again, if Summer's going on, I feel like he should definitely be going on.
Mm-hmm.
And he's one of our best players. I don't know if he can be not performing well for as long as he's been out. Second choice obviously is that maybe he's taking a break just to like recollect himself mentally, and he is going to come back. But then my argument to that is that he did that, and Adam said he did that like a couple months ago during midseason. So if he's taking more than a couple breaks, so obviously the third there comes like he's checked out for the season and he's going to retire. To me that sounds more logical just because he's getting a little older, stuff like that, and I feel like he's somebody that thrives a little bit more in a crowd environment when he's doing well. And regardless of how LA Gladiators have been very up and down when he was with them, but he still had some good success with them.
Yeah, they're always really good teams.
Success has been harder to find. Yeah, success has been harder to find with Toronto Defiant. Maybe he's just hasn't been able to make it through that mental boom of being with us.
Yeah, I think he's talked about a couple times on stream too how hard it is to play for a team that's losing, and especially when you're someone of his status in the Overwatch League, it's got to take a strain. I was really surprised we didn't see him this tournament. I thought it made a little bit of sense why we didn't see him in the other one, because it was an Ashe Genji meta. And while I do think you could argue Surefour's Ashe is superior to Logic's, I would be pretty confident to say Logic's Widow is superior to Surefour's. And so if it's an Ashe like Widow meta, Logic's brings that flexibility on top of. I don't know. We've heard that Logic's might be a bit of a better shot caller than Surefour. I don't know if that's the case. I know that we know Logic's can shot call, and he's actually a pretty good in-game shot caller, like behind Numlocked and Cruz. Yeah. I believe people constantly say that Logic's is sort of a third shot caller. We've heard that from Adam. We've heard that from people talking about when they played with Logic's previously, or whatever, having a relationship with him in the past, is that he actually is like a decent in-game leader. So maybe it was just sort of They just thought the fit was better because they don't want to lose Logic's shot calling. So I understand why he made a play at the beginning. We saw Beast coming at the beginning, and then the team sort of put their structure together. Because I do think you could have just played Surefour, but especially when Sombra's in meta, like there's really no excuse. And Sombra's been in meta for I think he was even arguably meta last time with the Monkey Zarya Sombra dive. He definitely is meta this week and assumingly next week as well. So I think if we don't see him next week, it's a bit of a sign that we might not see him again, unless there is a meta developing on the current patch and Surefour is just grinding that, right? That's another thing that's possible. Maybe it's sort of just like, hey, Surefour and Agilities are just grinding this new like Sombra Echo dive on the new patch with like ball hog, right? Or I have no idea what the new meta is going to be. This new patch is insane, but it's possible that he's just sitting there focused on that and that they're doing some scrims and stuff like that with Surefour in the lineup and they're throwing like Logix and Zik in there as sort of like do this new patch. But I mean, I have no idea. At the end of the day, like if we don't see him tomorrow versus the Dallas Fuel, I kind of think we won't see him again. But I hope that we do.
It's weird because like you said, Barroi said these like games don't matter, but you also said that we're kind of tied with the Dallas Fuel and we need to beat them.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they just like disregard.
We don't need to beat them, right? Because like if we beat them, we go up in the standings. But like at the end of the day, like finishing 8th or 9th doesn't really matter if you get knocked out in the first. You get knocked out in the first round regardless, right? Like if you get knocked out, you get knocked out. It doesn't matter if you're 8th, doesn't matter if you're 4th. If you finish 3rd in the regular season, like it really is all about the playoffs and with the double elimination structure. Like you could be the 12th place team and sign to K somehow and go on a run and like win the championship, right? Like, these are all things that are possible. Yeah. So I can understand why they're like it doesn't really matter, but obviously the team's still trying. I don't know, man. Like I was really expecting to see Surefour. Maybe it was a map pool thing, but like Sombra is very clearly meta in this, and Surefour is still, in my opinion, a really, really good Sombra. And I think a lot of fans really want to see him play. So especially if you're like, whatever, these games don't matter, like why not just throw him in there and try to run some Sombra stuff? Like it doesn't really make sense unless Surefour is like totally checked out, which is unfortunate because you're right. Like when he plays, he brings a certain. He has his moments where you can tell that Surefour is taking over the game. The fans love to see him. We love to see him, especially when he's performing well, especially on heroes that he performs well on. So,
yeah, one thing, you know what? Just another random thing. It's not a gripe, but it's like, I don't know why they don't do this. I don't know why Toronto Defiant don't have their cams going. They're like
right.
face cam.
Yeah, I know.
They're powered by Canon. Hopefully one day we'll be powered by Canon too.
Wink, wink.
They're powered by Canon, so it's obvious that they should be kind of like having their Canon cameras out, like displaying their faces at least, showing how good they look. And I understand that maybe it's like they're mentally booned, but like they haven't had consistent cameras like all year.
Yeah, I know it is super weird.
Or Summer Showdown when we collapse. So that's something that you kind of probably figure out because it just doesn't look as professional, right?
My last thing is maybe it's it affects frames or something like that, and they're really trying to maximize that. But like other teams are doing it as well. Like I totally agree. Or like I don't know if other teams have second PCs that they can stream off of, and that's what's happening. And I don't know what the case is, but you're right. I would love to see the Canon cameras and stuff like that, and it does like add a little bit more personality to the player. So I do agree with that.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I haven't really seen these guys' faces in a while, and also really random fast. Do you think the PCs that they play off of are standardized? Like they all get a PC and it's the exact same one throughout the whole league?
No.
No? Do you think they all have their kind of like own thing?
Probably at this point, yeah. I would expect you to be playing off your own peripherals with like different specs and stuff like that. I obviously because like how are you gonna what are you gonna do like ship a PC to Zik on like 100 ping when he's signed and in a couple days, right? Like I assume they're just playing off the stuff they're playing off of. Obviously, when you go to LAN tournaments, which is what the year was supposed to be, like those would be standardized, right? The same PCs, everyone's playing on the same hardware. But no, I expect it to be like you can kind of use whatever you want to use.
Yeah, I was just curious. Okay,
assume there's no like hacks, right? Like obviously.
Yeah. So real quick, a preview with Dallas. Big game. Well, big game-ish. Like it affects standings, and if that affects who we face, then I think it's important.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on that, Spencer?
Yeah, like this, a win or a loss could be the difference between whether or not we see 2 playoff games or 3 playoff games or 4 playoff games, right? Like depending on who we face in the first round, do we get double bounced or do we get a victory out of it? That's very dependent. It might be at least on whether or not we win this next game. I have no idea.
What are the key matchups? I mean, Dallas has been very up and down, right? They got 3-0'd by, I forgot who it was. They got 3-0'd by somebody, and then they 3-0'd Vancouver. Dallas
is still a good team, And I think Dallas is trying a little bit harder. Like they're running the Sombra and Doha can play like Echo and those projectile heroes pretty well. So with the Sombra dive and stuff like that, it's pretty viable. Gamsu, obviously you can't run the Sombra dive in this case, but Gamsu Note are a good tank line. They have Notes improved to Sigma especially.
Crimso's pretty good.
Crimso's a really good flex support. Crimso's actually was a player we wanted on the Toronto Defiant at the beginning of the year. And although I love Kariv, it's been nice to see Crimso really pop off. And I wonder if that's whatever. I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll say that for another video. But Crimso's look really good. So this and Onigod's really good too. We want him as well. So this is a really good team. Not a really good team, sorry. It's a pretty good measuring stick. I think normally if this was a regular Toronto Defiant that's grinding this patch, 100% invested in this next game, taking it super seriously, I think it'd be a pretty good game to measure yourself against. But I think given Barroi's tweets, and I think even Logix was like, I'm heading off social media into the playoffs, I'm going to focus on that. I think the team's really trying to get their brain and focus on the playoffs. I kind of expect Dallas Fuel to beat us pretty handily because of that. Not that they're a better team. I think they might just be in a little bit of a better headspace for this game. They might be taking this patch a little bit more seriously. Yeah. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I say better headspace. Toronto's strategy makes a lot of sense, right? There's no reason to spend 2 weeks learning this patch when you can spend 2 weeks, take 2 losses, or that are essentially meaningless, and try to grind another patch, right? That's going to be played for playoffs. I actually kind of like the strategy.
Yeah, but also what is to say that Dallas isn't doing that too? We haven't looked at their Twitter. They could be doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, they could beat
us. They could beat us, and they could also be not grinding the patch.
Yeah, they could. But, I'm kind of playing the assumption that we were just so vocal about it, and I don't think Dallas has been nearly as vocal about it. So I kind of assume that they're probably still playing on this patch. I don't think the standard approach is just give up on this patch. I think that's a Toronto specific thing, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm just if it's a logical thing to do, then why isn't it logical for more teams?
Well, I mean, some fans would be like, well, what the hell, right? Some organizations would be like, I don't want to lose. I don't need to give up 2 games. We want to come 8th. Maybe you look at the 8th place seed as a pretty big thing in NA. I don't know how it would work. 1 versus 13, 2 versus, 11. I'm trying to figure out if you can dodge a certain team by coming in, 8th or 9th. I don't even know how the structure works, to be honest, with the double elimination, but it could be pretty impactful. I don't know. And maybe they're really worried about fixing their chemistry. So you want them to try on this new patch to build team chemistry because you are introducing Onigon and Paintbrush into the lineup. They've been for a couple weeks now, but any practice at some point is going to help. So I expect Dallas to win because I think that we're not focused on this patch as probably they are. But at the same time, I hope Surefour comes in the lineup. I hope he plays because I think that Sombra is really viable in this current meta, and Surefour is a better Sombra than Onigon. At least I hope he is. I assume he is. I think that you can run it's Ash Sombra. Dude, put Logix and Surefour in there, man. We want to see Logix and Surefour all year. To this day, I still think that's our best DPS lineup we can field. Obviously, when Agilities is playing the Genji, you want him in, right? And that's probably the best vote we can put forward. But if it's not a Genji meta, Agilities and Logix, we've been saying this, Logix and Surefour, we've been saying this all year long. I still think is our best DPS lineup. And if any opportunity, I think that we get to run the 2 of them, I think we should. So put Logix in on Ash and put Surefour in there on Sombra, and let's get this thing going.
Let's get this thing going. What's your prediction? 3-2 for
honestly, I'm thinking 3-1 for Dallas. If we see a motivated Toronto and Logix and Surefour in there, and we're playing meta, I think we can win this game 100%.
Okay,
but I also don't know what's going on with the Kariv Baptiste situation. Is Kariv going to play? Is Roki going to play? We're going to keep switching that up. I have no idea.
Decisions need to be made.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be, again, just try to figure out the patch because the patch is going to be insane. If you guys are following the current meta, the open division games are Zarya, Hog. I think some people are theorizing Ball Zarya. Other people are theorizing Ball Hog. It's going to be an insane meta for the playoffs. So I am all for Toronto taking the time to grind that and practice that because for all intents and purposes, we could see some crazy stuff.
Yeah, we could.
Because the Ball's meta, who do you run? Who do you play Ball? Is it Beast? You probably play Beast, right?
I was on Beast's stream today, and he said that he doesn't think Hog's going to be an owl play because if you have a good off tank, he counters him pretty easily. If you have a good Diva or a good Sigma, they do counter Hog. But
I don't know. But Sigma's so. I could see a good Diva countering Hog, so I could see it being. But then who do you play with Diva? You think it's gonna be a Ryan Diva meta? Maybe Ball Diva, Monkey Diva dive could be. I don't know, man.
I don't know.
I'm
not quite sure.
I have no idea.
He was saying monkey Zarya.
Monkey Zarya dive would be
anyway,
decent for this team. Numlock and Nedo's in there.
Yeah, we're running out of time.
Yeah.
But unless you have anything else to say, Spencer, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Been a kind of long episode. We're rambling, different things going on, but we hope you enjoyed it. If you do, leave a comment, chat with us, leave a like, subscribe. If you don't like it, tell us why. Leave a dislike.
Yeah, we always love the comments, man. We always answer those things. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and as always, enjoy.